Hi, and welcome back to Daf Yomi B'Iyun. In this video, we're going to explore the topic of Pishnayim. Of course, the Torah says, the firstborn son gets a double portion of the estate. In this video, we want to deal with a serious question that Tosfos asks on the Rishbam on Kuf Chav Vav Amid Beis. That is, the Gemara there in Kuf Chav Vav Amid Aleph is discussing the question of, let's say the father died, left the estate to the sons. The sons did not divide the estate yet, and the firstborn son gets up and says, I want to forfeit my second portion. Does that work? So the Gemara brings a dispute between Rav Papa and Rav Papi. Rav Papa says it does not work. Rav Papi says it does work. And the halacha is like Rav Papi. The Gemara concludes that the halacha is, if the Bechor forfeits his second portion, even though they haven't divided the estate yet, that works. Rishbam there discusses, what about a regular brother, a Pashut brother? Let's say he forfeits his portion before the division. Would that work? Rishbam says, definitely not. Tosfos there has a question on the Rishbam. 1 second here. What happened to the Gemara on Kuf Chav Daled? Kuf Chav Daled, the Gemara discusses a related question, whereas discussing there the following case. Let's say, for example, the father died and left a cow. And after he died, the cow had a calf. So it's shvach, it's a new benefit that accrues to the estate. Would the firstborn get his second portion even from that calf? So it's a dispute between Rebbe and the Rabbanan. Rebbe there says he would. He gets to take Pishnayim even from that new shvach that came from the original asset. The Rabbanan say no, he would not get his second portion from the calf. It's not the halacha, and the Gemara rules like the Rabbanan that he does not get the second portion from that new benefit. But the relevant part is the way the Gemara explains Rebbe's opinion. Rebbe learns it from a hekesh comparing the Bechor's portion to the regular portion. Pishnayim includes, the firstborn's regular portion and his extra portion, so they're being compared. So he says, just like, and here's the important words, just like by the regular portion, certainly the regular Pashut brothers would get even the benefit that accrues later after the father died. They would get that shvach too, that's part of their portion. So too, the Torah is comparing and saying the firstborn portion as well, if a benefit accrues later, like the calf is born later, that would be thrown into the Bechor's second portion. So Tosfos says, the Gemara is saying loud and clear, that as soon as the father dies, even though you didn't divide the estate yet, the estate belongs to all of the brothers, the Pashut brothers. They own their stake in the estate. And therefore any shvach that happens goes to them. So how could the Rishbam on Kuf Chav Vav say that no, they can't forfeit it? They don't own it, they can't forfeit it, they're not owners. No, Gemara Kuf Chav Daled says they are owners. And that's why Gemara assumes as a given, and on this point there's no argument, that if there's the calf is born later, they get to keep, they get their percentage in that calf. So it seems almost like the Rishbam, it's like totally against the Gemara. How do we understand the Rishbam? So Tosfos disagrees with the Rishbam, but our objective here is to try and say how the Rishbam could possibly defend himself, what he would say in response to this question. So I'd like to suggest that there's two parts to ownership. When we talk about ownership, you can talk about the title aspect. I have title to this thing. The other part of ownership is the actual control over the asset in question. So bearing those two things in mind, let's focus on exactly what halacha, first of all, we're talking about in Kuf Chav Daled. In Kuf Chav Daled, we're discussing the specific question of, are these brothers considered owners to the extent that if a new shvach happens to the estate afterwards, would they get that shvach? Like the cow gives birth to a calf, does that go to them? So on that question, the Gemara says, of course they do. Why? Because they have a title to the property. Do these brothers have a collective title to the estate upon the father's death? Of course they do. Therefore, since they have title to the property, any benefit, any added value that happens to the property goes to them as well. As opposed to, let's now look at Kuf Chav Vav. Where Kuf Chav Vav is talking about the specific question of, can the brothers get up before they divided the estate and forfeit their portion, give it away? So that halacha, I want to suggest, depends on having actual control type of ownership. You have to be in control to do something like that. And so regarding that question, the Rishbam says, obviously, before the division, you can't say they really have control. We don't even know which portion they have yet. We didn't divide the estate. That is why the Rishbam says that to him it's obvious that a regular brother does not have the power to go ahead and forfeit his portion before the estate is actually divided. And then what gets interesting is how to understand the status as far as the firstborn's extra portion. For what we have is, if we look at the conclusion of both Gemaras, Kuf Chav Dalet and Kuf Chav Vav, the Gemara is concluding that the halacha is flipped right around regarding the firstborn's extra portion. That is, as far as the question of, let's say, the case with the cow gives birth to a calf, the Gemara's conclusion is that the halacha is the firstborn does not have a right with his extra portion to that new benefit to the calf. On the other hand, on the question of forfeiting the portion, the Bechor immediately has that right even before it's divided. So it's just the opposite of the halacha by a regular brother. So how did that happen? The answer is that if you look in the Rishbam in both Gemaras, the Rishbam explains that it's all based on the pasuk of Laseslo Pishnayim. That number one. First of all, Laseslo Pishnayim teaches us, Torah is saying that the father is essentially giving a gift of a second portion to this firstborn. So it's a concept of a gift. Since it's like a gift, well, just like you can't give a gift until you have something to give, so too, the Bechor's extra portion only includes things that are actually part of the estate. Of course, we know the principle that the Bechor does not take from roy things that come later. The Torah is amplifying that principle here and is saying, even if the new thing came from the original asset, it's a calf that came from a cow, even that is in the category of roy. It's something that's coming later, and so the point is it's not part of this gift. That's why the firstborn does not get the calf, the shvach that happens to the estate, because it's not part of the gift. At the same time, when the Torah is saying the words Laseis lo pishnayim, the Torah is saying that immediately upon the father's death, it's giftable to the Bechor. Specifically by the Bechor, it's this immediately possible gift, so that as soon as the father dies, even though they didn't divide yet, the Bechor has a choice. He can accept it, he can reject it, he has control right away. So the point is, there's a specific pasuk that tells us to give like the opposite status by the Bechor's extra portion. But the basic thesis here is that we're explaining for the Rishbam as far as how we would answer Tos's question. The Rishbam would say that in logic there's a distinction between the question of can they receive this new benefit later, a regular brother, can he receive the new benefit that happens later? The answer is yes, because they all have a collective title to the estate. But on the question of can they forfeit, can they get rid of their portions before it's divided, on that question the Rishbam feels that logically they cannot do that, because that's a question of control, and how can you say they have control before the estate has been divided? So I hope you've enjoyed the shiur. Question or comments are welcome. And of course, you can access the Shas library on realcleardaf.com or by the app, the Real Clear Daf app. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.